good news is there's no shootout in the playoffs. Thank goodness. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where the Seattle Kraken do outplay the Nashville Predators, I think, fairly decently, but still end up losing as they get goaltendered by UC Saros, something that has happened to a number of teams this season, and end up falling 2-1 in the shootout, which again, thankfully, is not something that we'll see come postseason time. And yes, I do think it's safe to say that the postseason is on the horizon for the Kraken, even though they do drop a point to the Predators, who are really the only team that could end up catching either the Kraken or the Jets to get into the playoffs, knocking one of them out. Though, with that being said, the Jets would also have to catch the Kraken, and they're just as far behind, so it's just not very likely that the Kraken end up getting passed by both the Jets and the Predators, especially since both of those teams have pretty difficult remaining schedules, and the Kraken schedule just keeps getting easier and easier the more of these playoff or bubble playoff teams they get out of the way. Now, I'm not going to lie, if the Kraken do end up losing the second game in Nashville as well, especially if they do it in regulation, which, by the way, that is a game we'll be streaming for on Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Pacific time, so come hang out if you're free on Saturday morning. But if they do end up losing that one in regulation, even though it'll still be much more likely than not that they'll end up making the playoffs with strength of schedules and still having a number of points in hand, yeah, I'll be among the people that'll be starting to get a little bit nervous, even if there really isn't a ton of reason to be. Realistically speaking, anyway. That all having been said, I really don't know how much more there is to say about this game other than what I already did. The Kraken do outplay the Predators. They outshoot them, outchance them, do pretty much everything but win the face-off circle, and in the end, just Saros stood on his head in net, which he's done quite a few times this season to teams all across the league. And while Decord also played very well in net at the other end, eventually it goes to the shootout, and I think we all know where that's going as far as the Kraken this season are concerned. And even outside of Decord, there were also no changes in the Kraken lineup, so this is probably going to be a pretty short one as far as R&Rs go. The Kraken do end up getting off to the fast start, eventually getting one past Saros, and when I say eventually, at the time it didn't really feel like it was going to be that much of a challenge. Not that Saros isn't a great goaltender, but the Kraken get on the board pretty quickly. It's a rush chance from, once again, the fourth line, because of course, Geeky passing it all the way across the slot, getting it to Sprong just as he's getting up to the net, but he doesn't really have a chance to take a shot while in front of the net. So when he gets behind it, that's when he decides to take his shot, banking it off the back of Saros and into the net. Actually, kind of more puts it into the leg of Saros, and then as Saros closes his legs together to try and prevent it from bouncing off of him, he ends up sliding it into the net behind him. The Kraken will take the bounce, and Sprong, of course, manages to find a way to score from behind the net because, once again, he seems to be hot. And the Kraken almost did add to this lead quickly after it as the third line gets out there, and Tolvanen just misses the side of the net on a tip from a gourd pass on the back door, but that doesn't go. Sprong gets another chance that Saros is able to make a save on, and that would pretty much set the tone for the night as the Kraken, obviously from the final score, don't end up getting another one in. And really, even with those chances also coming pretty early on here in the first, the rest of this first period's pretty uneventful, and really the only other highlight is a hot mic moment picked up by the ice level mics between Tanev and ex-Kraken Lauzon, who laid a hit on Tanev that I think Tanev wasn't too happy about, so as Lauzon has the puck setting up for a Nashville breakout behind their net, Tanev informs Lauzon that he effing sucks, although he said the whole word, and then Lauzon comes back with, "You suck." Again, just top-level creativity by those two guys. Either way, it was pretty entertaining to hear the two of them exchange some words, and I think it's safe to say, based on the comment sections from videos in the first half of last season, where a number of Kraken fans are going to come down on that argument between the two of them. But you know what? Say what you will about Jeremy Lauzon, and I still do think a lot of people are a little bit more critical than he deserved of him while he was with the Kraken, but hey, they still got a second-round pick out of him, which ended up turning into Yanni Nyman, who's had a pretty good season for an 18-year-old in the Finnish Elite League, so yeah, worked out in the end. Anyways, we get to the second period. It's more of kind of the same. Back and forth up and down the ice. Not a lot of great scoring chances as both teams are playing pretty solid defensively and not letting a lot up. And what they do let up, both goaltenders are not having too much trouble with. The Kraken end up getting a power play, but don't do much with it. I think they got a couple shots on goal, but nothing terribly dangerous. And then, not long after that power play comes to an end, they do make the one mistake in the defensive end. And honestly, it's really not even that bad of a defensive mistake. It's more just an unfortunate rebound off of a save from Decord that happens to bounce to the far side and straight to a Predators player, and en route to him, just barely past the outstretched stick of Gord. And with a basically empty net, although Decord does almost get back in time to make the save, he's able to hit it and tie the game at 1. Then shortly after that, the Predators themselves get a power play, which the Kraken are able to kill off without even a shot on goal. And we end up getting to the end of 2 with the score tied at 1. And again, this game feeling like it's definitely going to come down to whoever scores next. And to their credit, the Kraken came out at the start of the third period and pressed hard to try to be that team that would score for the first 10 minutes of this third period, getting a number of good scoring chances. The problem again was UC Saros in net with a couple of pretty spectacular saves, in particular a couple on Justin Schultz and one on Alex Wennberg, where he tries to almost do the same thing that Sprong did, just more wrapping it around the leg while next to the net. But this time Saros was able to get his legs together in time to get that puck frozen between them before it could bounce off him into the net. And again, it stays out. And so, try as they might, and they, again, did try pretty hard for these first 10 minutes of the third, the Kraken just cannot find the net a second time, eventually getting a power play out of all this relentless pressure in the Nashville end, but that power play is actually less successful than that 5-on-5 time that led up to it, and then things even out. The Predators do end up kind of pushing back in the back half of the third, but they don't get anything out of it. Decord does actually make a couple of pretty nice saves. And then at the end of the third, with about a minute 30, I think, left on the clock, Tanev ends up getting called for a hit along the boards that was pretty borderline on it being called boarding. But I also think the Kraken kind of got away with a couple of calls leading up to that. So while that may have been a borderline call, fair enough. They end up going to the kill with a minute and a half left. And once again, the kill does a fantastic job of making sure that this game gets to overtime, with the help of Decord, who has one very nice save during that kill. Unfortunately, the kill bleeds over into overtime. The Kraken are able to kill off the remaining 30 seconds of what's now 4-on-3. But then, because of how power plays work in overtime, with it being a 4-on-3 when the guy comes out of the box, it goes to 4-on-4, and it stays 4-on-4 until there's a stoppage, which, unfortunately for the Kraken, isn't until there's about 30 seconds left in overtime, which I think really did not serve the Kraken particularly well, as they've really had a lot of success at 3-on-3, and adding that extra skater on the ice, I think more played into the hands of Nashville, as they had an easier time keeping the Kraken off of the rush and getting those rush chances, which Dunn does eventually get one very good look in the final seconds. But again, Saros makes that save, and we go to the shootout, where it's the first shootout in the NHL in Decord's career. He ends up getting beat 5-hole twice, and the Kraken, who don't have Ryan Donato in the lineup, so they can't just roll him out again, do end up switching up things at least a little bit with the first guy. It ends up being McCann that goes first, and McCann does beat Saros, but he doesn't beat the post behind Saros, so that one stays out, and then Saros makes a nice save on Eberle, so the Predators end up winning it, scoring twice, and the Kraken not scoring once. In the shootout, that is. So, there you have it. Again, the Kraken do, for the most part, outplay the Predators pretty much the entire game. Out-shooting, out-chancing them. They do, actually, just barely, so they keep it kind of close, but end up getting beat in the face-off circle. Other than that, especially in that third period, the Kraken, I think, really did deserve to win this game, at least by a goal, probably 2-1 in regulation. But UC Saros made sure that didn't happen, and to be fair, Decord played fantastic at the other end to match him, stopping 23 of 24, and eventually it gets to that shootout where the Kraken have, I'm not even sure if the Kraken have scored a goal in the shootout this season, maybe one. They haven't won the shootout yet, and Decord in his first shootout ever, it's a tough ask to have him up against Saros. So as far as what the Kraken could have done better in this game to win it in regulation, or what they could do going into this next game against the Predators on Saturday, I think the best thing they can do is just hope that Saros doesn't play as well on Saturday as he did here on Thursday, assuming he gets the start again. Meanwhile, offensively, well, the power play has started to kind of struggle again. It's been, I think, 5 games, they said now, since the power play scored last, so that's definitely an issue. Other than that, maybe show the urgency that they showed to score at the start of the third period for those first 10 minutes earlier than the start of the third period. But again, they had that good push at the start of the first that got them the lead and then almost extended the lead. So, yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to nitpick this game too much for the Kraken. They played a pretty good game, and in the end, it just wasn't enough to beat one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. So then, as for the Kraken 3 stars in this game, I think the first one's going to be pretty obvious. It's clearly Joey Daccord, again stopping 23 of 24, a fantastic night, and building off of what I also thought was, again, a pretty good night in Dallas a couple nights ago. Even if his stats didn't necessarily make it look that way, he did better in this game, and his stats certainly improved to reflect more the way he played. Then the second star, I'm kind of between 2 guys, and they're going to end up getting second and third star either way. I think I am going to lean towards Vince Dunn for the second star here. He had a fantastic 200-foot game in this one. Does end up getting an assist, so he starts a new point streak. That was another one of the, I guess maybe the one big bummer from that game in Dallas, is that Dunn's 12-game point streak was broken, so starts a new one here with an assist and continues to lead the team in points. And then the third star is going to be Daniel Sprong, the lone goal scorer for the Kraken, but even outside of that, had another fantastic game, and that fourth line was creating chances, and whenever the Kraken were getting their offense going, it was often that fourth line that was at least a part of it, if not the ones that got things going in the first place. But other than that, yeah, don't really know what more there's to say about this game. Let me know down in the comment section if I forgot anything. I'm sure someone will point out that one of the power plays the Kraken got was Lauzon going to the box. That was on Gord, and it seemed like Gord and Lauzon were a little bit more friendly with each other than Tanev and Lauzon. Either way, let me know what you thought of this game. Again, if I forgot anything, who your 3 stars would be, and yeah, if you're free Saturday morning, come hang out and do the watch along stream for that second game in Nashville. Again, 11 a.m. start time Pacific. And yeah, if you've made it to this point, thank you very much for watching. If you liked or enjoyed this video, there are buttons for that kind of stuff down below that help support the channel, so I'd appreciate you using them. And until next time, stay safe out there, be good to each other, God bless, and go Kraken!